Right, good morning, everybody. Very, very warm welcome to yet an exciting webinar brought to you by Saiosh this morning. Welcome to all our attendees that I am seeing is streaming in at the moment. Excellent, nice to have you here this morning. My name is Niels Nokia. I am the CEO of Saiosh. Saiosh is the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health in South Africa, a SAQA recognized professional body with 3 professional designations registered on the NQF, the National Qualifications Framework, namely technical member, graduate member, and chartered member. Saiosh is currently one of the largest professional bodies in the world, most definitely the largest in Africa, with more than 16,000 members. So all of you that joined us this morning and logged in, very warm welcome to our members and also our visitors and guests this morning. Just a quick update on this webinar. The webinar is, excuse me, the webinar is CPD verified by Saiosh with 2 CPD points. Saiosh members can claim this 2 CPD points directly after this webinar. If you don't know how to do this, please just follow the professional registration page on the Saiosh website. And there's even a video tutorial that will show you how to upload these CPD points. Please also note that the Q&A is on this morning for questions and answers, and the presenter will try and field as many as possible of the related questions. So please post your questions on the Q&A related to the presentation. You're welcome to use the chat box to meet and greet, like I see you all do. And you are welcome to introduce yourself and say hello to your colleagues. You can also use the chat box if you have any technical issues, and Gareth, our communications and membership manager in the back end, will quickly help you out there and send you a link or rather a message how to sort anything out. From our side, we can assure you that the video is broadcasting fine, and so is the sound. So if you have any technical issues, just shout in that chat box. As per usual with all our webinars, excuse me, this morning, the webinar will be recorded. The recording as well as the presentation this morning will be made available, directly sent to our members via the newsletter. It will also be available on the Saiosh website under latest news and also on our Facebook page. This webinar is also live streamed this morning on YouTube. So if any of your colleagues phone in and say they have any difficulties to logging in this morning, you're welcome to tell them to go to the Saiosh YouTube page and they can view it from there. If you have missed any of our previous webinars, I think this is our 13th webinar, unique webinar that Saiosh has arranged themselves with our own guest speakers. They are all available on the same platforms that I've mentioned, which is the Saiosh website, latest news page, as also our Facebook page. Right, getting to today's webinar. What an exciting webinar this is going to be. I know upfront, because we are privileged to have back with us again Professor Dr. Andrew Sharman, based in Switzerland, to speak to us on a very topical topic this morning: workplace well-being leadership. Excuse me. Andrew, if you can maybe share your video with us at the moment so I can introduce you. There we go.
Morning, Niels.
Morning. So Professor Dr. Andrew Sharman is the founder and the managing partner of a company called RMS, a global consultancy specializing in culture and leadership support organizations around the world through industry sector, including mining, construction, oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, and FMCG. His personal consulting experience spans over 120 years. Sorry, over 100, oh, that won't work, Andrew. Over 120 countries with a broad range of clients. Regarding as a dynamic and visionary thought leader in workplace safety, having earned several international awards for his work, he is a professor of leadership and safety culture at the European Center of Executive Development and the INSEAD campus in Paris, France, and lectures in risk management at the University of Zurich, Switzerland, leading business school, IMD, in Lausanne, Switzerland, and at Caltech, the Californian Institute of Technology in the United States of America. His Lean Six Sigma black belt ensures that his teaching is grounded in practical application and results focused. More importantly, Andrew will be known currently for being the current president of IOSH, the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, based in the UK, the world's largest health and safety body. But most importantly, he's also a chartered member of Saiosh, and his company is also a corporate member of Saiosh. Andrew, what an absolute pleasure to have you back this morning. This, I think, is the second webinar that you will be presenting for us during this lockdown period. We are really looking forward to your message, and over to you. You're welcome to share your screen now, and please enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much, Niels. Let me just take a moment to get the screen sharing up and running. Niels, can you confirm that you can see that screen? Okay, I guess Niels is on mute. So I'm hoping that...
Yes, we can see it, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Good, thanks for the confirmation. Then hello to everybody joining us, whether you're joining live through Saiosh or live on the live stream on YouTube. It's great to be here with you all. Thanks for making time to hang out with me this morning. Sabona, Molo, Lotjani, Dumela, Abukseni, Nda, and how's it? I can tell you something, trying to remember how to say hello in all 11 South African languages has got to be one of the coolest challenges that I've had this week. I'm really proud to be hanging out with you because South Africa, as some of you know, is my second most favorite country on the entire planet. The first favorite, of course, it's my homeland, Scotland, where I'm from. I've been to your country, South Africa, more than 30 times now, and I love being there with you all. No matter which part of that fantastic country I'm in, I always feel at home and with friends. And as I watch you getting ready for this webinar this morning, that spirit of friendship and community is absolutely abundant when I look at the chat box there running up the side of my screen. And I just want to say a quick hello and shout out to some of my friends in different places up and down your amazing country. So in Port Elizabeth, I saw Susan and Mornay coming in. I saw Bakang in Tshwane, Tandeke in Nelspruit, Xander in Bloemfontein, Eliza in Pretoria, Natalie in KZN, Hester in Durban, and then the person with the best name on the planet, Clinton Whiskey in Cape Town. Hello to you all and to everybody else. It's lovely to get to hang out with you. Thank you again for making time to be here and with me this morning on this session. As Niels mentioned, we are RMS. We're an organization that works globally with organizations, helping them think about culture in their organizations, particularly around safety, well-being, and leadership. We've been particularly proud to work with a number of South African organizations and also companies right across the African continent. I saw Dumasweni joining just a little moment ago. Dumasweni is in Zimbabwe. I spent many trips in Zimbabwe last couple of years working with a number of different mining companies there, and it was my first experience in Zim. What an amazing place it was. So if anybody hasn't been to Zim and you're on this call, drop everything, get over to Zim for a few days and see how amazing it is there too. So I figured that I'd start with this slide, which if you look carefully, you'll recognize that it's in South Africa. In fact, it's at a Saiosh annual conference a couple of years ago in the Gallagher Center in Johannesburg. And there I was talking about safety culture, but actually when I go back to look at my notes from that session with you, I realized I was just talking about well-being. Well-being is really important to me, not just for my own physical health and fitness, but because of what I think it has as a secret superpower for our organizational cultures. You've heard Niels say already that I'm president of IOSH, and the logo IOSH, the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, is obviously missing the W for well-being. But I think well-being is all-encompassing. It's a bit like the brackets that sit around that IOSH logo. It's kind of there all of the time. We either have well-being or we don't, as individuals, as teams, and as organizations. In addition to being president of IOSH, I'm also chairman of the board of the Institute of Leadership and Management, which is one of the world's leading organizations for people just like you, no matter what discipline you're working in, whether it's health and safety or procurement or engineering. It doesn't matter if you're a leader or a manager. This institute is at the cutting edge, helping you understand how to be better. As chairman of the board of the Institute of Leadership and Management and as president of IOSH, I see a real interesting connection there between the worlds of safety, health and well-being and leadership and management. And I've been thinking about these connections for many years. I've written 3 books on well-being. You can see them here, the Wellbeing book, Happy in Here, and Working Well. But in my books on safety too, I'm also talking about well-being. In the world's best-selling book on safety culture, it's called From Accidents to Zero, there's a lot of focus on well-being and health and ill health particularly. And in the book that I wrote for senior leaders with the former head of the UK safety regulatory body, Dame Judith Hackett, she and I wrote about how leaders need to mind their own business. And that includes minding how we think about well-being in our organizations today. So what do I want to try and do in the next 45 minutes? Well, I think there are 3 big questions that we need to tackle. First is, what's the problem? Why are we even here thinking about well-being? Second, is there an opportunity that we need to face up to as OSH practitioners right now? And if there is an opportunity and there is a problem, what do we need to do in order to get some success? So those are the 3 areas that I'm going to try and break this down into. And of course, as Neil said at the beginning, this session is being recorded, so you better watch it again on demand. And I'm also going to send you at the end of this session a PDF with some of the slides that I'm sharing too. So make notes if you wish, but don't panic if you don't have a pen to hand. You're going to get a whole pile of stuff that will be helpful later. So remember too that you can ask me questions using the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. Click on Q&A, you can ask a question at any time, and I'll try to answer them during the session and also at the end too. Please make sure to use the Q&A box and not the chat box though, because I won't be able to keep an eye on all of that stuff flooding through. So you've got a question, put it in Q&A, please. Ready? All right, let's get on with it. So I think there's a big issue here. I think there's a big problem. And in doing research for my book, Working Well, What You Need to Know to Live a Longer, Happier, Healthier Life, I realized that cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and chronic lung disease now make up 70% of all deaths around the world by non-communicable diseases. 70% of all deaths from non-communicable diseases are CVD, cancer, diabetes, and CLD. Now, why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting because these are lifestyle diseases. They're attached to what we eat, what we do, how we live, how we breathe, how we exercise, and more. Now, 70% of all deaths around the world, let's put some numbers on this. It's 17 million deaths, 17 million deaths every year to these 4 things. Now, you should start to be concerned about this. If you're not concerned yet, let me help you become concerned, because by the year 2030, the number will rise from 17 million to 24 million. That means more and more and more of us are going to succumb to these diseases. Now, pause for a moment. Just think, do you know anybody in your family, your friends, your circle of influence with any one of these 4 things? I'm sure you do. Now is the time that we need to act. We need to do something different. But it's not just these 4 NCDs that we need to be worried about. In the UK and in the United States of America, 2 in every 3 people are overweight and have body weight issues. 2 in every 3. Now, hey, look, after lockdown in the pandemic, I'm probably in that group too now, right? I put on an extra couple of kilograms, a few extra pounds from eating a little bit too much and having too many beers, I guess, over the last few months as I worry about what the future of this world is post-COVID. By next year, obesity will actually overtake smoking as the biggest killer of American people. Did you hear it? Obesity will overtake smoking as the biggest killer of American people by next year. Now, I'm sorry to use data from countries other than South Africa or across the African continent, but I want to use these as benchmark indicators of what I think is coming right around the world. Now, let's stick with America for a moment and move beyond obesity to stress. Did you know in the States right now, 1 million people call into work and say that they're sick every day because of stress? 1 million every day saying, I can't come to work because I'm too stressed out. Now, that has a net cost of $200 billion on the US economy. Now, that means that they're spending $2.7 trillion in total on healthcare costs in the USA. This isn't sustainable. America is often a précis for what's about to happen to the rest of the world. So I'm offering you now a gentle warning that I think these are the issues. Those 4 NCDs, obesity and stress, are the biggest well-being issues that we need to start thinking about. Now, I know, of course, across the African continent, there are communicable diseases that are very important to you. And many of you in your organizations lead the way on best practice around these communicable diseases, such as HIV. And you do some great work there. So I'm not suggesting that what I have to tell you here is more important than that. I'm telling you, I think it needs to go alongside that in terms of its importance. Now, Niels mentioned I'm president of Saiosh. Over the last few months, I've visited every one of our 43 branches around the world, virtually, of course, and shared some well-being information with them. We've been running a little pulse survey on every one of these sessions too, and we found that up to 75% of our Saiosh members right now are feeling stressed or anxious because of the pandemic. Up to 75%. I got to tell you, I'm included in that too. I've been feeling anxious and stressed and worried about the future for me, for my business, for my friends, for my colleagues, for my family. So if the majority of us are feeling stressed, I think we've got to do something about that. But actually, there's some more interesting research by the Institute of Leadership and Management saying that 84% of managers now at work are experiencing mental ill health symptoms that are related to the work that they do or the working environment that they're in. Wow, this is an even bigger majority. But get this, only 46% of those people feel comfortable talking to their own line manager about how they're feeling. This is a real issue. If we put this into simple numbers, 3 out of every 4 people at work are feeling stressed right now, but only 1 in every 2 people feel that they can do something or say something about it. This is the real challenge for us, but I also see this huge opportunity for us. But if we're going to define the opportunity, we need to define clearly what we're talking about. And we use the words safety, health, and well-being every day with an assumption that everybody knows what we're talking about. So let us pause for a moment to be clear about what we're talking about when we say health and well-being. In 1948, the World Health Organization said health was a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, you see, health is well-being. Our physical fitness, our mental fitness, and the fitness we feel, comfort we might call it, amongst our peers, whether they're in our community, our organization, our family, or our friends groups. Health and well-being is not just the absence of being sick or having disease. It's much more than that. So I think what we need to do here is understand that it's health that's the real wealth. If we're not healthy, it doesn't matter how much money we have. If we're not healthy and we can't spend it and can't enjoy it, what does it matter? Lessons from classical leaders like Gandhi and Mandela and other great leaders like them are the ones that I think we need to bring to the fore right now during times of crisis like this pandemic, but also as we continue on into whatever our brave new world looks like post-pandemic. So let's think about this opportunity in a little bit of detail, just choosing one of those issues. I've been talking about stress and mental ill health. In the UK right now, the cost of mental ill health that's work-related is £45 billion. Now, putting that into rand, it's 993 billion rand. 993 billion rand every year. But hang on, I told you that this was about an opportunity. Well, here is the opportunity. For every £1 spent, or 22 rand, there's a £5 return on investment. Every 22 rand turns into 120 rand at the end of the pipe. What a fantastic opportunity. If I were to give you a gambling bet and say, you're guaranteed to win, just give me 22 rand and I'm going to turn it into 120 rand. Would you do it? Would you take the gamble if you had nothing to lose? Of course. All you have to do is put in a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and some good communication. I think this 45 billion UK pounds or 993 billion South African rand is an amazing prize for us to win. And it's within our grasp. But well-being isn't just about mental health. As you heard in that World Health Organization definition, it's a complete sense of mental, physical, and social well-being. So we need to make sure we feel good on the inside, but also on the outside too. This is about creating healthy behaviors and weaving them in to the way that we live our lives. Now, I mentioned the pandemic, and I've probably done my fair share of overeating and overdrinking during that time. I probably sat on my ass a little bit too much as well over the last few months and adopted some unhealthy behaviors. And these unhealthy behaviors that we all adopt lead to increased health risks, which turn into chronic health issues like the ones I talked about at the beginning: cardiovascular, diabetes, cancer, and lung diseases. Remember those things that make up 70% of all of the deaths around the world from non-communicable diseases. And as a result of this path, we find ourselves in spiraling healthcare costs, no matter whether we're in the USA, the UK, Switzerland, South Africa, Zimbabwe, or anywhere else on the planet. The outcome is the same. So we've got to think about this as a business problem. Now, poor employee productivity is defined as being physically at work, but not working. The word for it is presenteeism. And the cost associated with presenteeism is at least 2 to 3 times greater than healthcare costs. Now, I don't want to get into the maths again, but you've heard these big numbers I've been sharing so far. Imagine multiplying them by 2, 3, 4 times perhaps even. Now, if you were to go to your CEO in your organization and say you wanted to help them reduce costs and improve productivity, would they want to listen? I'm certain they would. So you see how this opportunity is becoming real for us. So what are the solutions? How do we grab hold of this opportunity and really drive improved productivity and improved value for our organizations? Because that would feel good, right? As an OSH practitioner, being the one responsible for driving these value gains for your organization. So what do we need to do? Well, I think that there are 4 key things that you can do right now to start to drive a step change in how your organization thinks about well-being. The first is to make a focus on it, discussing and prioritizing well-being. Don't just add it on as a theme or a campaign every now and again to eat a bit more healthily or drink a bit less or do a bit more exercise at the gym. Well-being needs to be part of your daily dialogue when you talk about safety and health. You also need to understand the impact it's having on your organization and its employees. Think about those numbers around obesity or non-communicable diseases. Think about the ideas of presenteeism, turning up at work when you're not physically fit or paying attention. Think about the issues of mental health. Work with your HR teams to understand the trends and the focus that's going on and drive that into the way that you talk with your leaders about safety, health, and well-being every day. The second is we need to keep connected. The pandemic has shown us that we can connect much more strongly with people in times of crisis. So leverage that, encouraging people to stay connected, using their chat groups on their mobile phones, hanging out near a coffee machine, okay, assuming the physical distance, of course, finding ways to encourage people to stay connected to one another in their teams, their communities, their societies. Ask questions that are not associated with work. Hey, how are you managing during this pandemic? What are the challenges for you and your family during this pandemic? What can we do to support you right now? Ask meaningful questions that start to create dialogue. Don't ask those ridiculous questions like, are you okay? Or have you got any problems? Because these can be answered with a simple yes or no, and there is no dialogue as a result. So you've got to ask open questions, ones that encourage people to stimulate a conversation with you. Third, we've got to boost motivation and engagement because look, it can be hard, can't it? At any time to find the energy and the motivation to focus on occupational safety, health, and well-being. But in times of crisis, it's even harder. But COVID presents a real opportunity for us as OSH practitioners to leverage the interest that our organizations have in COVID and broaden it out to broader safety, health, and well-being issues. So I know right now you're being leaned on by your leaders to guide them, to tell them the latest on COVID, but don't stop there. In your new COVID briefing, talk about the bigger picture of well-being. Talk about COVID as just another risk that we're facing to our well-being. Find ways to connect your discussions on COVID and well-being to the values of your corporation. Keep communicating, but keep communicating the same message. Don't keep adding more and more and more and more. We've all felt overwhelmed during the pandemic, haven't we? There's been too much information, and we find it hard to work out which we need to pay attention to and which we can ignore. Now is not the time for long tail strategy. Now is the time for clear, short, concise roadmaps. Here's what we're going to do for the next month, 3 months, 6 months. And as you continue along that roadmap, you start editing and you start working towards the next 3 and 6 months. And don't forget to recognize those that are living the values that you want to see around well-being. Shout outs to them. Recognize who they are and what they're doing. Notice someone that's lost some weight recently or has started running home from work back to where they live each day. These are the leaders that can really start to influence others. And then finally, lead by example. It's up to you to lead the behaviors that you want to see in others, demonstrating them every time that you can. Remember that leadership is everything that we do, but also everything that we don't do. And that by default of your position, you have the respect of people, senior leaders, workers, managers across your business. So recognize the respect and the level of the influence that you have and show the very best version of you every day. Now, I mentioned the book Working Well at the start. This was written as a result of the research that we've been doing whilst working with the World Health Organization over the last 7 years, helping them and their staff think about how they could work well. With the pandemic, we're being encouraged to move lots of our programs and training packages online. So I want to just introduce briefly to you our new Saiosh certificate program in workplace wellbeing leadership. It's based on the book Working Well, and indeed included in the online program is an ebook version of Working Well book too. Now, some of you are already familiar with our Saiosh certificate programs. Many of you have been through our Saiosh certificate program in behavioral safety leadership. And it's fantastic to see you doing that. This, I think, is the next step for OSH practitioners who are interested in building their skills, their CV, and adding more value into their organizations. The program, just like the book, is based on our concept called SONAR. And you know what SONAR is, don't you? It's an underwater navigation system for finding hidden objects. Submarines use it, whales and dolphins use it. But actually, I think that we've got a SONAR within us too. We've got a way of detecting hidden objects and things that are risky to us. And our SONAR is an acronym. It stands for sleep, oxygen, nutrition, activity, and rituals. And these are the 5 key elements that you need to be able to be working well. And we explain them in the book and we stick all the science in there too. So if you like that sort of stuff, have a look at it. In the online program, though, we rip all the science apart and give you some practical ideas on how you can use these 5 elements to improve your well-being immediately. So I thought we might just talk about one very quickly. It's oxygen. You know, it's funny, even though we've all been doing it for a long time, most of us are not very good at breathing. We're not very good at breathing. Why? Because we get stuck at our desks and hunched into funny positions, and suddenly we get stuck. So I think what we might do is think about our well-being just for a little moment and think about the concept of diaphragmatic breathing. Now, you might be wondering, why has he got a picture of a bird cage with a balloon in it? Because I'm using this as a simple symbol of what our lungs and our rib cage looks like. You can imagine your rib cage as a bird cage, and you can imagine your lungs as a balloon. It doesn't matter how much I blow air into that balloon. As soon as it hits the rib cage, that's the maximum it's going to get in there. But most of us are not using maximum capacity of our lungs. So what I'd like us to do is practice just a little bit of diaphragmatic breathing together. Are you up for it? Do you want to do this in real time? Come on then, stand up. Let's see you standing up. Come on. Come on, stand up. You can. Don't sit down. Come on, stand up. So I want you to stand up. I'm going to play you first this little video. And what I'd like you to do is just watch the video. Just watch the video as the chap breathes in and out. You notice as he breathes out, his chest rises. As he breathes in, the stomach goes out. Notice the lung, the big pink part at the top. The lung is inflating as his belly goes out, and the diaphragm, that's the bottom of the bird cage, is moving up and down. That's the muscle that helps us breathe. Now watch it again with the ribs exposed. Now, see if you can just start to breathe in time with this video. It might be helpful if you put one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest and really try to allow the chest to rise as you breathe out, and as you breathe in, let the belly come out. Now, if you put your hands on your belly and your chest, you'll be able to see whether these are moving or not. You can really see differently for yourself. So breathing out, breathing in. Now, I know this might be a bit embarrassing because if you've got a couple of extra pounds after the pandemic like I have, you might be a little bit conscious of your belly, but what you want to be doing is really trying to push that belly out. As you breathe in, push the belly out. As you breathe out, let the belly relax. Now, I think if we start to do this a few times each day and get into the practice of it, we'll find immediate benefits. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're suddenly going to turn into Superman or Wonder Woman as a result of breathing like this. But what I will say is you'll find you have more energy, you feel more alert, you're able to solve problems more quickly, and a whole host of other benefits. So starting with our breath is absolutely critical. You know, John Kabat-Zinn, who was one of the founders of this mindfulness movement that we're going through at the moment, says as long as you're breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you. And I think he's absolutely right. But of course, this isn't about what's wrong with you. It's about how you can become more right, how you can develop more value. So a quick overview then of our IOSH certificate program in workplace wellbeing leadership. It covers the SONAR system. The first module is an overview of exactly what SONAR is all about and why it's important. And then we go through each of those 5 key elements: sleep, oxygen and breathing, nutrition, activity, and rituals. As you work through the program, which is completely online, takes about 4 to 6 hours, but you can pause and stop and return to it as often as you wish. And then at the end, there's a test. And if you pass the test, guess what? Fantastic news. You get your IOSH certificate qualification in workplace wellbeing leadership. So what are the impacts and benefits then of doing the program? Well, we know from people that are already passing the program that there's a bunch. First, healthy behaviors help us create better organizational culture. Second, enhance leadership effectiveness, impact and visibility around the wellbeing agenda. Third, improved engagement, communication and productivity, and reducing presenteeism, people turning up and working when they're not well. We give you practical tools to influence workplace behavior and develop a positive well-being culture. And we see a reduction in workplace accidents, incidents, unsafe acts, and near-miss events. Why? Because if people are well and alert and mindful and paying attention, they're much more aware of the risks. And of course, too, our graduates tell us it's brilliant to get an IOSH qualification that's recognized around the world, too. If you want to know more about the program, just click on this link, behavioralsafetyservices.com/courses/working-well. behavioralsafetyservices.com/courses/working-well. And by the way, if you include the code SAIOSH 20, you'll get an exclusive 20% discount on the program. You'll also get that off our books too, if you want to have a look at some of those. Now, if you didn't get that link, don't worry, we're going to send it out to you following this session. So now, Niels, I'm going to take a quick pause and see if there are some questions that anybody has on the topic of well-being and see if I can answer them.
Indeed, Andrew, there was 1 or 2. You can have a quick look at it, and also feel free to generate questions which you think will lead to further conversation. Thanks.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Niels. So I'm looking in the Q&A box. If you do have a question, please post it there in Q&A. Marlene Lawrence. Hey, Marlene, how are you doing? Marlene asks, where would we place mental health in terms of the global picture, like dementia, depression, etc.? Well, Marlene, of course, as you know, dementia and depression are parts of mental ill health, aren't they? So I think mental health at its broadest, encompassing things like dementia, depression, Alzheimer's, stress, anxiety, fear, all these other things. These are fast becoming the new pandemic for workplace OSH practitioners to have to manage. I think it's the biggest issue that we've got to get into. Now, I understand too that most OSH practitioners will say, well, that's fine for you to say, Professor, you're a psychologist, but I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a medical doctor, so how can I deal with this? Well, you don't have to be a psychologist like me. You don't have to be a medical doctor. You have to be someone that is prepared to understand a little bit about the causes of these sorts of mental ill health issues, and then think about what you can do practically to resolve some of them in your workplace, like thinking about staffing levels, man hours, working conditions, the way the leaders interact with their workers on the shop floor, and so on. So there are things that we can all do. And one of the biggest things that you can do right now is to take the time to properly ask people how they're doing. Now, we're not very good at this. You know, I live here in Switzerland, as Neil said. We speak French here. And a typical greeting is to look at someone and say, "Ça va?" which means, "How are you?" And the typical answer, "Ça va." In the UK, where I'm from, a typical greeting, "How you doing?" And the answer, "Hey, how you doing?" In South Africa, it's the same. "How's it?" "Wow, how's it?" You see, we're asking people how they are, but they're not telling us. They're just asking how we are too. There's no dialogue. So I think what we've got to do is ask a second time. No, hey, how are you really doing? How's the family? How are you guys all coping with the pandemic? What's it like in the workplace for you right now? Getting these deeper questions, I think, could be much better. Dual Potgieter says, does eating and drinking really help reduce stress? Dual, I come from Scotland, the home of the finest whiskey on the planet. And I can tell you, yeah, having a glass of whiskey helps me reduce my stress. Having a couple of glasses might help too. But actually, the more whiskey I drink, the more stressed I get. I'm stressed because the whiskey is draining out of the bottle. I'm stressed because I'm going to have a hangover in the morning. And then the next day with my hangover, I'm stressed because I can't get the work done that I need. So I think, yes, having a bit of alcohol, treating yourself to a nice steak or a bit of kudu or a McDonald's or whatever you want to eat, treating yourself to something you like to eat and drink can be a way to temporarily relieve a little bit of stress, but it isn't a solution. It's not a solution at all. So we got to go back beyond that. Oh, the questions are coming in pretty fast now. This is cool. Nathaniel Matlaga is saying, online working has caused individuals to work even harder and to extend increasing productivity. How does the situation bring home, brings home related stress? What does one solve this challenge? Thanks, Nathaniel. You're right. I think being always on these online pieces is difficult. It's stressful. I was pretty nervous this morning. I got up at 6 a.m. this morning to think about what I wanted to talk about with you, to go back over my slides, to make sure I had something that you would find useful. I felt a bit of stress. So yes, we need to recognize that the pandemic is causing everybody to work harder and developing a can-do sort of attitude. We need to be mindful of that. As individuals, we need to make sure we take time out for ourselves to do something that helps us relax and recharge. As leaders, we need to make sure our teams are doing the same. Dawn Ledbetter is saying, hi, are there any guidelines available so we can have some guidance on how to make some policies around mental health and well-being? Yeah, Dawn, great question. There's a stack of guidance on this. Here's two websites to look at, mnd.co.uk or mnd.com. That's the charity Mind that thinks about mental health and stress awareness. Second one for you, isma.co.uk, the International Stress Management Association. Based in London, the UK. Loads of great stuff on there you can download for free. And here's the bonus prize, Saiosh.com. You can search in there on mental health and wellbeing too. Loads of templates, loads of guidance that you can download for free too. Let's try Sheena O'Brien. Hi, Sheena. Oh, hang on. I don't mean to be sexist here. Don't take this the wrong way, but all of the girls are writing the questions here. Does that mean that the guys don't have any interest in stress and well-being? What's going on? Dawn, Sheena, Jean, Susan, you're all writing fantastic questions. Thank you. Does that tell us that the ladies in this group care more than men? Maybe it does. Come on, guys, what's on your mind? Aren't you bothered about well-being and mental health? I'm sure you are. Ask your questions. So Sheena's saying, one of the biggest challenges I've found with colleagues during this time is the lack of motivation. Yeah, I agree. Asking how they're really doing and having the conversation is a good point, but is there more that can be done to motivate people to reach out for help? Yeah, I think there's always more that we can do, isn't there? So I think that we need to start with these questions. Building better dialogue is absolutely the foundation of new progress. And then thinking about what those bigger issues are in your organization or in your community, talking with your HR colleagues to find out the themes and trends of sickness absence, and also using our eyes and ears. One thing that I know about South Africans and Africans more broadly is that you're really good at tuning into what's going on. So let's use these super senses that we have to really find out what's going on and suck it up anecdotally in the workplace too. Susan Russo, nice to listen to you again. Oh, thanks, Susan. Nice to hear from you. I've been using your accidents to zero items to assist with my current work environment. It makes a huge difference with people's attitudes to safety. I'm glad you mentioned those, Susan, as well as the From Accidents to Zero book, which we've talked about before. We built this card deck, which is 50 cards that have questions that your leaders can ask on the subjects of health and safety culture. And I think that's what Susan's referring to here. I'm glad that they're helpful to you, and pleased to have that feedback. Thank you. So Gerda Jean, how would you encourage deeper questions when the answer is almost certain to be negative? If you consider extensive economic impacts and resulting retrenchments, considering you want to assist your colleagues, but also consider yourself. You're right, Gerda Jean, it's difficult, isn't it? I know that the South African economy is challenging. I know you have issues with things like load sharing. That there's a lot of big challenges that you face there, which makes me proud to know and to work with you guys. I think what we have to do is get into those meaningful conversations with people and try to lift them and to accept that those people will place some negativity onto our shoulders, but it's our responsibility to turn that negativity into positivity. If you think about it, negativity and positivity, the only difference between them is a thin line and just a few letters. If you take away the nega and replace it with posi, that's what we got to do. Now, I know that sounds simple, but perhaps the structure of the Working Well book or the online program might take you through a plan that allows you to really drive that step change. Marlene Lawrence, again, based on the component of oxygen in the Workplace Wellbeing Leadership course, looking at the acronym SONAR, would poor air quality in the workplace be addressed perhaps? It's not directly addressed, but actually, Marlene, if you'd like to send me your email address, I'd be happy to send you a piece of work that we're doing with some Russian specialists right now on exactly that. Of course, as we think about workplace leadership, we need to think about air quality there too. So it's a great suggestion. Thanks, Marlene. Geez, these questions are coming fast now. Namazondo, we want to implement a behavior-based safety program, but not sure which is the right one. There's so many opportunities in the market. Nama, you're right. There's lots of stuff on behavior-based safety. Of course, it would be easy for me to say, well, choose our program because it's the best. It may be, it may not be. It may not fit with the way that you do what you want to do. But I think a behavior-based safety program to be successful has to have clear leadership commitment demonstrated through them walking the talk, and an actual mechanism to drive engagement with workers and leaders together in an open, sharing, caring way. And I think a great BBS program, Namo, is one that moves us from a culture of compliance to a culture of care. If you'd like more on that, you can drop my colleague Lindsay an email. You've got her address on the screen there, and she'll be happy to give you some more details. Herrick Valentine, why can't workplace well-being not become part of everyday work and compulsory policy? It can be part of the OSH Act and will commit employers to assist employees with well-being and health and will be beneficial for the workplace and company. This will contribute to identify problems beforehand and put measures and assistance in place. Yeah, you're dead right. Why isn't it part of law? Well, I think because everybody's a bit afraid of it, because it's a bit nebulous, it's a bit vague. Oh, well-being, you know, what is it really? But it doesn't have to be. As I showed you that definition from the World Health Organization, that health is about social, mental, and physical well-being. There's our link. I think what we need to do as OSH professionals around the world is to unite around the well-being agenda, show organizations that it's really important, and then through organization lobbying groups like Saiosh or IOSH in the UK, or the Institute of Leadership and Management, for which I sit on their board, using the connections with these organizations to really lobby the politicians to drive it into law. Herrick, I think that in years to come, you and I might look back and say, we were talking about that on a Saiosh webinar. And there they are now introducing a law into the OSH Act and other things on well-being. So good question. Don't worry too much about compliance though. Focus on care, caring for our people. Thea Snyman, this is a comment. Most people that are stressed are usually rude and short-tempered and prefer not to talk about stress factors. Also, it's how they were taught not to talk about one's problems. Could this be adding to well-being issues? Wow, Thea, what a brilliant observation. When I get stressed, I get a bit rude and grumpy and a bit snippy too. In fact, Just this morning, I had to have a conversation with my partner about how we were both getting a bit stressed with each other yesterday, and we both feel bad about it. So you're right, it's difficult, isn't it? Especially for our generation. I'm 46 years of age, and I know many of you are in a similar generation to me. We've been taught not to tell people about our feelings and emotions. It's hard. So maybe we need to go around the outside a little bit more gently. Instead of saying, hey, are you stressed? What are you stressed about? Maybe we need to find out what's going on at home. Are they having a vacation this year? And if they say, well, no, I'm not having a vacation because I'm being retrenched. Oh, okay. And then start the conversation like that. And then trying to find positives. One of the questions I'm asking a lot right now is, hey, the pandemic's causing us all to be disrupted. But what are the positive learnings that you've got out of it so far? One of the positive learnings I've got is the way that we can connect with people much easier online like this. So maybe that's a way to think about it. Tandeke Mundlane, are there any guidelines or policies to add on the regulations based on this topic? I think I probably covered a bit of that, Tandeke, in the answer that I was giving just a few moments ago to Herit. Look, I think there's lots of guidance available. Look at that ISMA website, ISMA, the Saiosh website, or the MND website, those three that I mentioned. We can perhaps get some links added for you too. Here's Nowaze. Nowaze, hey, GLTA, Nowaze, great to see you from Grinica. Since your last visit, the workshops, the organization has shifted the mindset, and I am what I am because of your interaction with you. Wow. Or was it? That's something big. You've stopped me in my tracks there. I feel tremendously humbled by you giving that feedback. Thank you. In fact, you know that I left your organization feeling inspired and motivated by you guys. I see so much energy amongst people across the entire African continent when it comes to thinking about safety, leadership, health, and well-being. Fantastically inspired by each of you. Thank you, and please keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to keep going until Niels jumps in and tells me to stop because the questions keep coming. Natalie McManus says, I'm finding this informative as I arrange the wellness days on various sites. I'd like to find out where I can have assistance on contacts for drive on cancer awareness. Got one for you, Natalie. No Time to Lose is the official Saiosh campaign for work-related cancers, including airborne cancers and dusts like asbestos dust and so on. Go to the Saiosh website and search that for No Time to Lose, or Google NTTL. You'll find loads of resources to download for free, templates, training, the whole lot. It's all there. Hey, we've got some of the boys coming in now. Here's Marius Ferreira. Hey, Prof. Dr. Andrew, will personal fitness and wellness awareness programs within an organization assist in boosting motivation and engagement with all staff members based on your experience? Yeah, I think it does, Marius, but we've got to make it relevant, right? If I come over to South Africa and get into your place, Marius, and say, all right, team, come on, we're all going to get together and do a little bit of yoga, stand on one leg and start breathing with your hands crossed. I imagine a lot of those big, tough African rugby playing folks are going to be looking at me thinking, what's wrong with this book? So Marius, I think we've got to get it right. If I get one of the box to come into your workplace and say, hey, look, let's talk about the importance of stretching or cardiovascular physicalness, then maybe I'm going to get your attention then. So let's make it contextually relevant. Palesa Mfuti, Palesa here, good morning to you. If I want to pursue my career into workplace wellbeing leadership and workplace compensation, what qualifications will be more appropriate? Well, Palesa, I think it's going to be that program that I was just talking about. The Saiosh certificate program in workplace wellbeing leadership will be a great point for you to have on your CV. It's an internationally recognized qualification. You complete it in your own pace, entirely online. You have lifetime access to the resources. So it's not you just get it and then you lose it. You can always go back and redo the program, use any of the resources in there, download and use them in your business too. So I think that could be a good one to get started. FD Mokamane, thanks a lot, Prof. I'll engage Lindsay for further clarity. Great, thanks, FD. Kerry Wilson, how do we handle the fear of falling ill with COVID at work? Kerry, look, I think we're all fearing falling ill with COVID. I think what we need to do is go back to risk assessment basics here. thinking about the control measures that we can put in. Now, you can go back through ERIC PD and all of those other things too. We can't eliminate COVID, it's there. So we've got to think about everything else in ERIC PD. So this is about physical distance, it's about good housekeeping and cleaning regimes in your business. It's about good sanitization of our hands. It's about thinking about masks where possible and where not, using physical distance. And you're going to get loads of guidance on this. I've been running workshops with Saiosh for the last 4 months. And also leaders from people like the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and many more. You can find all of that, saiosh.com/coronavirus. You can download all of the previous webinars and download all of the resources, particularly including a great free training course called Returning to Work Safely After COVID. You'll find it on the saiosh.com/coronavirus website. Let's see. Oh, there's Sean Wallace saying, hi, Prof. Hi, Sean. If you've got a question, buddy, type it quickly because Niels is going to come in and tell us we're up. Let's see if we've got any more. Here's Makita Bonje. Hey, Makita, how do you change people's mindsets in regard to health and safety from top to bottom and in the workplace? Yeah, good one, Makita. You do it, you start by leading by example, by showing them how you think about health and safety and how you demonstrate your leadership by walking the talk. There are some small nudges that you can start to think about too. Now, I haven't been to SA over the last few months because I've been stuck in Europe on lockdown. But over here, we're seeing that shopkeepers are painting stripes on the floor every 2 meters to encourage people to have 2 meters of space between them. They're putting a sanitizing bottle right at the front door next to the shopping baskets and carts. So when you arrive in the shop, you're nudged into thinking, oh, sanitize my hands. When you see the lines on the floor, you're nudged into thinking, I need to keep my distance. So think about how you can nudge the right behaviors in health and safety in your organization, perhaps with some of that stuff. If you're stuck and you need more help, have a read of this book. And if you want some more help for your leaders, get a set of these creating safety conversation cards. Write to Lindsay, she'll tell you the details that you need. Mokitsi, thank you, Prof, for this reactivating presentation. Thanks, Mokitsi. That's a lovely thing to say. Appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Famous nudges have been part of our Shek, says Norwazi. Yes, they certainly have, Norwazi. We had fun with them too, didn't we? His Neil's popped up, which means my time has probably run out, hey?
Andrew, if there's one or two left, I'm not too sure. It looks like you've handled everything, but definitely we can listen to you all day. So I don't know if there's one question that just popped up now.
They keep coming in now, hey?
I think if you can field one more, it'll be great. Thanks.
Yeah, all right. Hey, look, Jacob and Sydney have both got very clever questions here. Jacob Hutchinson, we live in a complex work environment. How do you counter cross-discipline problems such as labor unrest, which predominantly results in HR/IR, but ultimately affects behaviors that impact on well-being? Brilliant observation, Jacob. Yes, you're right, they do. You know what you got to do? You got to get back to basics, Jacob. You got to lead like the best leader you've ever been exposed to. You've got to walk the talk all of the time. You've got to give people the trust that they need to trust you back in return. And you've got to approach them not as the problems, but as the solutions to be found by working with them. That would be my suggestion there. And then just finally, Niels, if I may just end with a comment on Sydney Rickert's message here. Sydney is saying, doing a little bit less time each week can help him to cope without health problems. I think this is the important final message I wish to leave you all with. All 231 of you, please listen to this. If you forget everything else, right now, you are the most important person in your organization, as your leaders need to think about how they safeguard the occupational safety, health, and well-being of their people. I watched a movie on Netflix last week called The Fundamentals of Caring. It really struck me in my heart. In the opening scenes, they explained the rules of caring. Here's the first rule of caring. The carer has to take care of themselves first, otherwise they can't care for anybody else. So today, tomorrow, and every day hereafter, find something just for you, even if it's 5 minutes, just taking a walk outside, being quiet and focusing on your breathing. If you can't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of anybody else. We need you right now, Saiosh members. Stand up and lead forward. Thank you very much for a brilliant time with you today and for some amazing questions. 33 questions in a short space of time was incredible. I feel honored to receive them from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, huge thank you, Professor Dr. Andrew Sharman. What an inspiring presentation as per usual. I saw in the chat when I alluded to say, carry on, we can listen to you the whole day, that someone posted there, we can literally listen to you the whole day, which is so inspiring. The good news for Saiosh members is that we're not finished with Andrew yet. We entered a bit of an agreement, corporate membership with Andrew, and if I'm right, Andrew, there's going to be a couple of these presentations that's aimed at more or less the same topic. So we are looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And on behalf of all our members and all our attendees today, I was just looking at the participation or the participants' numbers at the bottom, and towards any normal webinar, as soon as the Q&A start, you can just see the numbers dropping because it's time to go now, because this is the boring part. I have to compliment you on not only the excellent manner in which you present. I think there's a bad English saying, say gift of the gab, and that's not what it is. You are just a brilliant presenter, and you can capture the audience and you can tell them what they want to hear, but also handling the Q&As. Thank you very much. I mean, we have learned as Saiosh that when we host these webinars, we actually appoint, not for your one, but for other webinars, we actually appoint a Q&A person that just try and encapsulate the questions and make it interesting and ask the questions afterwards. You're the first presenter that actually handles your own Q&A by itself and do so brilliantly, and going through 30 odd questions. It's just amazing.
Niels, you know, it's not me, it's your Saiosh members with brilliant questions that makes it easy for me to discuss. So please, I can't take the credit for that. You've got to give the credit to the Saiosh members for brilliant questions. But it's certainly great fun to be here with you. Listen, just one thought. You mentioned this other series, and I know that you and my colleague Lindsay are setting up a series of these webinars exclusively for Saiosh members. How about this for a real-time South African challenge? I challenge Saiosh members to tell me what you'd like me to talk to you about in these webinars. Instead of me telling you what I think you need to know, why don't you decide what subjects you want? Find a way of communicating that. Niels will tell you how to do it. You guys choose what you want me to come back and talk to you about. And if you'd love to invite me back, I'd love to be back here with you. How does that work?
That sounds brilliant. And just on that note, for the participants that are still on the webinar at the moment, you can just pop an email to info@saiosh.co.za, refer to this webinar and say, we would like the following topic, and we will immediately collate it. I mean, there's 223 of you still online. So even if we only get 10% of you sending a topic through, that'll be great. Andrew, just in conclusion, before you leave us, I just want to remind our members that this webinar was CPD verified by Saiosh with 2 CPD points. So, you know, just taking into account, we've had 13 odd webinars, 26 CPD points that you've already could accumulate. Even if you missed it or your colleagues missed it, you can review the recordings and still claim the 2 CPD points. And also just a reminder that it is recorded, and the recording and Andrew's presentation will be sent to all members and made available on our platforms. Just also a quick reminder, I see it was posted in the chat. Our next upcoming webinar is the one on ventilation, a key COVID-19 barrier, with a panelist of 4 experts, and that's going to be hosted on the 7th of September as part of the Electro Mining Connect 2020. So look out for that one, and then obviously we will timelessly inform you of the next upcoming webinars of Andrew. Andrew, in the final conclusion, to close this, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. We know that there are people of your caliber that charge for webinars like this. The mere fact that you do it for Saiosh members at no cost to us, we really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone. Keep well. Until next time. Cheers.